Reality Al-Mahdi, this channel is red lights. Enjoy the blessed words of the well-guided Imam here on Reality Al-Mahdi.
The domains, or should we say, the facets, can be found under two spiritual formations. Two spiritual formations going back to places. The first spiritual formation goes back to the place of Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin il-Fatihi lima ughliq wal-Qatimi lima sabaq nasir al-haq bil-haq wal-hadi ila siratika al-mustaqim wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi wa miqdarihi al-azim. This is the first spiritual formation, going back to the place of Muhammad. But what comes from the spiritual training goes back to the place of Ahmad, and that is Ahmad Tijani Sharif, the holder of Khatmiya and Katmiya. In order to benefit from these two Bahru, you have to know the instructions of each. Because holding a rosary and just reciting will not give you one Bahru, let alone both. Therefore, knowing how to access them should be your main focus. The first one, going back to the place of Muhammad. You know, when we say place of Muhammad, you often hear Salatul Fatiha, and Salawat ala Nabi is praying upon the Prophet. So on your first time hearing, you think it's absolutely normal that there is a spiritual formation to reach the place of Muhammad. But if you go to the word Ghaib, the Prophet has his own place, a place of which only those he has irrigated with his light have access. And what's astonishing about this place located at the sixth heaven is that when you reach the place, you hear the zikr of Jawharatul Kamal, and you are told about the zikr of the Salatul Fatih. The Prophet has his place in Ghaib. Only those he has irrigated with his light can access this place. And when you go there, you hear the resounding zikr of Jawharatul Kamal. But the individual who wants to attend is told to bring the Salatul Fatiha. At this place, beings are irrigated with the Jawharatul Kamal. But if your soul is selected, you are told to greet with Salatul Fatiha. Hence, it's not an easy spiritual formation. However, the circle called Place of Muhammad inside the Salatul Fatiha will give you orientation. The first orientation is to count the manners of the Prophet one by one and make sure to possess 7 of them. In terms of formation, the first orientation is to count the manners of the Prophet. You are told he used to be this way, he adopted this type of manners. You make sure to have 7 of these manners. You know, if you possess 7 of his manners, you won't need someone to come and fix you, because you already are kind. The Prophet of which having one of his manners makes you kind, and you are told to have 7 of them. This latter can and will only succeed. And you haven't touched a rosary. You haven't touched a rosary or practiced zikr. But since you want to access the place of Muhammad, where the Jawharatul Kamal is recited, and recite the Salatul Fatiha to salute, you are taught to well behave in this world, in order for your soul to recite the Salatul Fatiha once there. You are told that the first step is to count the manners of the Prophet, choose 7 of them, and adopt those manners. That is the first step. After adopting 7 of his manners, make sure to have the time here on earth to practice those manners in front of others. You always hear a person had the manners of the Prophet, but he never had the chance to show it. That's just people trying to uplift the ladder. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when walking we should be able to see it. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when talking we should be able to see it. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when exchanging with your Muslim brothers, we should be able to see it. Your blood brothers, as well as your brothers in light. Hence, the second step is to practice 7 of those manners here on earth. This is why the elders were trying their best to build a mosque, teach the Quran, educate the kids, find someone who needed assistance just so they could help him without others finding out. They knew they had the manners of the Prophet, but they needed occasions to show it. All of their trouble was due to the second step, as they knew the importance of it. Going there and saluting with Salatul Fatiha in a place of Jawharatul Kamal is not an easy task, because those who recite it are mostly hijabs. Those who recite it are mostly angels. Those who recite it are mostly Rabbaniyu, and none of them had once made a sin. And the reason why is because they haven't had the chance to step down on earth. Take a look at this spiritual dimension. You are told to enter their hadara with the Salatul Fatiha, and they have to hear you while they recite the Jawharatul Kamal. And on top of that, you have to educate your soul with this salawat before coming. Therefore, you have to pick 7 manners of the Prophet and adopt them. Then, have the occasions to display those manners. Once you've completed these 2 steps, you are told to focus on the Salatul Fatiha and make it your priority. Make it your priority. And that is to make sure your spiritual formation zikr, or the litanies of the Tariqa Tijaniya, are done on time. This is why the elders had the flu and still sat down back against the wall to complete their lazim. This is why they had the flu and still searched for a place to sit and perform their lazim. Their body couldn't handle it, but they also didn't want their zikr to be late. There is a good man. They used to tell him, "You've been practicing zikr until getting the flu. Now is the time to rest a little." He replied, "I told Sheikh Tijani that when I come to Barzakh, my lazim will be completed. I won't miss a day nor an evening. I feel right now that my time is close, and I don't want to pile my litanies, as I will be afraid of not knowing what to tell him." Look at this wisdom. He said, "If I see him, I won't know what to tell him, as I signed an agreement. I told him I won't miss a lazim, wherever I may be. I won't miss a morning, I won't miss an evening." He started aging and had the flu. People tried to convince him to pause, but he specifically told them, "There's not enough time for me to pause, as I will shortly meet with Sheikh Tijani." To tell you, they prepared themselves until preparing their going to Barzakh. It is also their favorite. What you go through to play video games is what they go through to enter and visit the world ghaib, meeting the souls of the Salihin, meeting the souls of Shuhada, and having a conversation with them. And they tell the latter knowledge impossible to refute, because this world is only truth. This world is only truth. This is why Sheikh Mahdi Tijani said, what Allah stated on the Quran, يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا لَا يَتَكَلَّمُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ رَحْمَنٌ وَقَالَ صَوَابًا ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْحَقِّ. He said, it's not only the day of Qiyamah, Barzakh is part of it. He said it's a place of truth. Therefore, it will be a day of truth. That's why, saints, we will only acquire truth out of this visit. And if you verify, our elders used to tell people that if they had a dream of someone who passed away talking to them, they should know that it's true, because the latter is in the setting of truth. You see, the elders took this from here. The elders took it from here. Therefore, the Salatul Fatiha you were told to make a priority, you should be vivifying it day and night, and avoid delaying your litanies and your zikr of spiritual formation. It is said, doors begin to open from here. We are still at the place of Muhammad. Doors begin to open from here. The hidden domain is part of it. The hidden domain is part of it. A person who knows the hidden is someone whose dreams are always truthful. That's a person who knows the unseen. His dreams are always accurate. A holder of the hidden knowledge, his imaginations are always accurate. What he sees will happen exactly as such. A person who knows the hidden, his thoughts are always accurate. If he told about his thoughts in a short period of time, they will see it happening. So the door to knowing the hidden comes from here. But look at the prerequisites. Find 7 manners of the Prophet. Apply those manners here on earth in front of people. And make sure your zikr are done on time. Your lazim in the morning, your lazim in the evening. If you keep this up, the door to the hidden will be at your disposal. Other than that, it can be called hidden or vain. It can be hidden or vain. It could be from the hidden, a non-reality, or from something you think is true, when in reality it's the opposite. Nonetheless, this is the path which opens the door to hidden realities. Once the door to the hidden is opened for you, then will come the effluence of light. You hear a lot of people say, when I perform zikr, I see a ball of light. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing balls of light. It's because the effluence of lights or fuyudats are coming to you. But the fuyudat arrive when the person is on the 4th stage. After having the 7 manners, applying them, zikr done on time, the door to the hidden is opened. Then we can say you are on the 4th stage. The fuyudat come, and you continue to practice zikr because you are on course for spiritual formation. The fuyudat, when performing zikr, the balls of light consult each other. You know what a lot of people don't know. The ball of light that you see when practicing zikr, or the sparks you notice in front of you, most of them are beings created in light by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, emanating from the Salatul Fatiha. Don't ever think it's going to go away. Some are fuyudat originating from the tongue of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the Hadaratul Ilahiyah. The rest are beings created in Nuraniyu by Allah, emanating from the Salatul Fatiha, paying visit to the individual, excelling on the path of Allah. You can see them when practicing zikr as they come to pay you visit. If you maintain your zikr, they will consult each other to become one. That's why you hear some folks say, I used to see a lot of balls when performing zikr, but now I'm only seeing one. I know if he is small-minded, he will think he has regressed, when that's actually what was needed for his progression. Because when you start seeing one ball of light, it means they have consulted each other and have decided to help you in your spiritual elevation. Additional doors opens here as well. The door to miracles comes from here. The door to miracles comes from here. The door to traveling in which clean souls go back and forth to visit intermediate spaces, comes from here. The door to having multiple hijabs, representing you in several places, also comes from here. But there is a way to organize each. When it comes to miracles, the ball of light will pull out a white glove. A white glove, just like the one worn around the hand. A white one, but made out of light, created from Nuraniyu. It is given to the wali at his disposal. He can wear it any time he wants. And when he points out a thing, it will be imammahdi إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. When he wears it, whatever he wishes will happen the way he wants. Some said it's called karama, but when it's a prophet, it is called mu'jiza. That's one of the benefits provided by this ball of light. And you see, this is from performing zikr. And not the path of looking for secrets, but a path of spiritual formation. Now, last but not least, what takes the soul and enables it to travel has to have something to cover it. Because every intermediate space has an owner. And if a soul passes by without any protection, the ladder can make it back safe, but he won't be living long. That's why you used to hear the elders say, there are some powerful sirru or secrets, but kids should not learn it, or we have at least reached a certain age. And you used to ask yourself questions, but they used to say this because they didn't want people to pass by the holders of martaba, and then resulting to the latter having a shorter lifespan. This happens when the soul doesn't have protection, and what protects it comes from the ball of light. It's the path of spiritual training. Once protected, the protection will operate the soul. The holder will not choose a direction, but the light will take him to places. You know those who are close to Allah, the Salihin. The spiritual formation that I'm teaching at the place of Muhammad can be divided into two. Those who can go wherever they want in the world ghaib, and those who cannot take themselves to ghaib, but will have something to take them, and this thing will choose the destination for them. Some say they are always being taken elsewhere whenever they lay down to rest. But if you ask them to visit X intermediate space, they will say unless it takes them, they cannot go by themselves. You can see what takes them come from here. Because it grabs the soul, protects it before visiting the intermediate spaces one by one, meeting the souls of the Salihin, meeting the souls of the Shuhada, and he will know that each of them pronounced dead is actually not dead and still living. From the Sahabas, Sayyidina Hamza, Jafar, we have heard countless times on how they were assassinated. But once you go there, you find out they aren't really dead and are living truly under the best of the best conditions. Because Allah gave them light. But the thing that can take you to the place of Muhammad is the ball of light I was just mentioning. When the ball of light completes the visits, it goes back. I know this lesson here. You're going to have to go back and rewind, because I am teaching you a path of spiritual formation to reach the place of Muhammad, your starting point and the requirements. You see, when the ball of light is done visiting the intermediate spaces, not the person who can go by himself. When it takes you to visit the intermediate spaces, there will be a point where the ball of light will go back to where he belongs. Because time belongs to the pole. it will go back to the pole of the time and will stay there. If he doesn't take his plug of light and connect it, then your spiritual formation will end there. Here, people came telling me that they used to see everything and they were mystics. One once told me, I used to see everything, but I woke up one day and couldn't see no more. I'm still doing my nawafil. I'm still completing my Ramadan nawafil. One senior told me this. I also don't think that I have caused any harm. I'm still keeping my tongue, but I used to see a lot and suddenly it stopped. I was confused by it. I then told him about the origin of the balls of light, because they also need an authorization. They need authorization. And he said, yes, after I've seen it all, that's why I came here. And he's right. I told him they need an authorization. They go to a point where they need authorization. You see, the reason why one of the rules of the Hadaratul Ilahiyya is to dismiss the awliya who fight with the pole of the time, it's because of this. This is the reason. This is the reason. Any sanction taken from the world ghaib is due to it. When people hear fight with the pole of the time, they think you mean going up to him and starting a fight. The pole doesn't have time for it. And I think the circle that nobody sees surrounding him is far more dangerous than his security being seen here. Therefore, no one is awaiting for a person to battle him. Fighting against him is trying to show you are the one. Trying to persuade people you are the pole. Or trying to underestimate him. When you behave this way, if your name was written at the Hadaratul Ilahiyya, you will be sanctioned and will not be going anymore. You will be talking about the things happening in there until you get disconnected one day. Then they will move forward with their organization. Now, the place where the ball of light enters is why it needs authorization. When you speak of pole of the time, we're referring to the Qutb Zaman. You know, in this country, if you wear nice clothes, they will call you pole of the time. And as the elder used to say, time has many clothes. As there is a close for gain and a close for loss. A person can have wealth in this time until everyone mentions him. But he can also go broke until everybody feels sorry for him. That's why if someone would mention clothes and pole of the time, the elders will tell them that time possesses more clothes. With that being said, an authorization is needed. When the pole of the time gives his accord to the soul, because he communicates with the souls. Qutb Zaman is a very difficult mission. Because you don't have the time or place to rest and sleep. Even if the Qutb Zaman is extremely fatigued, the moment he puts his head down to rest, the second the world will start to turn. Hearing information from everywhere, what concerns and doesn't concern you. And the smallest of all is the zikr, being performed by the angels holding the throne of Kursi, standing at Arash. The zikr they are performing is heard by the Qutb Zaman, holding his rosary here in the Shahad. The Qutb Zaman. He is holding his rosary here, while they are at Arash with Kursi.
Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la khawla, wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Ya hayyu, ya qayyum.
He hears this zikr more than the wazifa performed with others. You can tell it's a difficult mission. And he doesn't stop. There is no resting. There is no I'm tired today. There is no calling sick. You hear this? Because the person is not you. Ghaib, they say, that person is not you. They say you are here present. And that body is there. They separate it. That's why you never hear that the mission of a Qutb Zaman was late because he had to go to the hospital. The elders say this. They can be laying down in a hospital bed, but are in reality somewhere else walking. They are taught this because it's part of their mission. It's part of their mission. The ball of light then comes to him. When it arrives, it presents to the Qutb Zaman, the soul of the one excelling in this path. He will look to see what type of person he is, and if they grant him, what type of path he will end up choosing. Everything is examined. Everything is examined. I once told you about a similar story during a Mawlid. It's in the archives. About the brother who performed the zikr of Salatul Fatiha 12,000 times in the morning and 12,000 times in the evening. He kept doing it until he was shown the Hadaratul Ilahiyah on a Tuesday and was supposed to attend it on Thursday. It was then that another brother from Bur, a man of God, one of the 40 most graded saints, took the file and went to the Qutb Zaman and told him, if he attends the Hadara, this country will be in shambles because I know him. And it's true. No one goes there to applaud or speak from the nafs. He told him he only wants power. What he has right now is too much for him. Never mind giving him something extra. They took his file and didn't allow it to pass. They took his file and didn't pass it. Just to tell you, the pull of the time exists. They handle these tasks and the person concerned doesn't know a thing. Not even one bit. They disconnect you just like that without you knowing what's going on. When in reality, the people of Ghaib have already discussed your situation. That's why if they look up to someone, there is a reason behind it. When the Qutb Zaman get in touch with the soul of the latter by listening to it until knowing his ending, he will then make a decision to either grant him access to the place of Muhammad or stop him. Only he can make this decision, unless the other Hadara intervene, and that's the Hadara Ahmadi Tijani. But it doesn't intervene a lot because most of the Qutb Zaman were elected by him. Their decision is his decision. They then decide to either grant him access or deny him. If you are denied, you will still have your deeds and will still be a Salihin. You will still be a Salihin with your deeds as you are a person of light. No one can take that away from you. If you died, you will end up in heaven. No one can take that away. However, you will not attend the place of Muhammad where angels are performing the zikr of Jawharatul Kamal while you recite the Salatul Fatiha. And that's the ultimate grade. The ultimate grade. When you go to Diwanul Hira, those who succeeded are decorated before the start of the meeting. On the 9th day of the month of Muharram, those who successfully reach the place of Muhammad reciting Salatul Fatiha while hearing the angels recite Jawharatul Kamal are honored before the beginning of the session. That's the ultimate grade. But you know what's impressive about it? Sometimes a soul of a person is honored if the latter has once attended the Hadaratul Ilahiyah using his soul and not his body. To tell you, this can happen to an individual who has never attended a meeting session of Diwanul Hira but has this level of status. It is called martaba. You often hear it. This guy here is a holder of a martaba. And you say, me and him sleep in the same room every Thursday. He doesn't go anywhere. Last time he didn't even wake up early. And you are told, and that doesn't take away his martaba, because his soul went to a place and was decorated, and whoever speaks bad about him will be cursed. That's why sometimes being careful with people is helpful. Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani, when he knew of this rule in his tariqah, he forbade his followers to speak bad about one another. Shaykh Tijani took this decision and made it a condition in his tariqah, forbidding his disciples of speaking bad between them. When asked why, he replied, "Because if they do so, they would be hurting me." He's right. You are hurting the place of Muhammad. And that's finding an honored disciple, and you belittle him. You might think you are speaking directly to him, when in fact it's directed to the Prophet. It's directed to the place of Muhammad at which his soul traveled. Imagine this misfortune. That's why Sheikh Tijani Sharif warned his disciples to only mind what concerned them. Avoid talking about things they don't know. Avoid harming others and avoid backbiting. Those who've had a spiritual formation know this. Now, after being granted, you reach the place of Muhammad and recite Salatul Fatiha in an environment of Jawharatul Kamal. You enter and greet with Salatul Fatiha. The Prophet ﷺ then stands up in his light and welcomes your soul by pulling the soul closer to him and kisses it with his noble lips. After this, if you don't always imagine the Prophet, you will dream of him a lot. You see this from some of the disciples of Sheikh Tijani, who see the Prophet in the white cloth of Wazifa and dream of him. It's because he kissed their souls. After entering the place of Muhammad, you are now decorated. The decoration happens in the month of Muharram, on the 9th day. Diwan al-Hira is organized and he will be decorated. This is the facet of the place of Muhammad and all of the requirements.
Prophecy, prophecy, his time has come, his time has arrived. The one Rasulullah has told us about this mission at the end of time.